Introduction. Everything is energy. The concept of God is not just a matter of faith, it's something that can actually be approached through logical reasoning. In fact, you can make a case for God's existence using logic. Since the dawn of humanity, we've been asking fundamental questions about life, death, and what happens afterward. But what if I told you that one of the brightest minds on the planet believes he has the answers? A man whose intelligence surpasses even Einstein's claims to have figured out not just why we exist, but also what occurs when we die. Take a moment to really think about that. Most of us go through life accepting that these big questions are mysteries we'll never solve. We're taught that science and religion are separate things that can't work together. But what if that's wrong? Go back to when you were about 7 years old, asking your parents, what happens after we die? Maybe they told you about heaven, or maybe they said, nobody knows. Now fast forward to today. Are you satisfied with those answers? Or do you feel like there's something missing? A gap between what science tells us and what religions claim? That gap might finally be closing. Through a groundbreaking theory that brings together physics, philosophy, and mathematics, we can start to see the bigger picture. And it all starts with a man named Christopher Langan. You might not have heard of him, but Christopher Langan has been called the smartest man in America. With an IQ between 195 and 210, he's been solving complex mathematical problems since he was a child. But instead of working on typical scientific questions, he has spent decades tackling the biggest mystery of all, the nature of reality itself. And this isn't another wild theory or religious doctrine. This is a serious attempt to address the big questions of life and death. A mathematical framework explains how consciousness, reality, and even death fit together. It answers questions that both science and religion have struggled with for centuries. Right now you might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. Or maybe you're wondering why, if this theory is so important, you haven't heard about it before. Those are good questions, and they're exactly what we're going to answer. In the next few minutes, you'll learn about ideas that could change how you see everything, your life, your death, and what might come after. You'll discover why some of the world's top thinkers are starting to pay attention to Langan's theory and what it means for you personally. But before we get into the details, I need to warn you. This isn't going to be like any explanation you've heard before. Some of what you'll learn might challenge your current beliefs. It might make you question things you thought you knew for certain. And that's okay. Because sometimes, the truth is more amazing than anything we could have imagined. But let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where you felt connected to something bigger than yourself? Maybe it was during meditation, while looking at the stars, or in those quiet moments just before sleep. That feeling isn't random. According to Langan's theory, it's a glimpse of something real, something we can actually explain with mathematics and logic. Think about those times when you knew something before it happened, as if you had tapped into a deeper layer of reality. Or when you met someone who felt instantly familiar, as though you'd known them forever, despite meeting for the first time. How about those moments of intense déjà vu, where you suddenly feel that you've been here before, done this before? These aren't just flukes. They're hints, clues that there's more to this reality than what we see on the surface. Even the inexplicable pull you feel towards certain places, people, or ideas. Langan's framework suggests that these experiences are not accidents. They're part of a larger system, a structured reality in which every thought, feeling, and connection has meaning. It's not just your imagination. It's evidence that you're connected to something vast and profound. Think of reality like a huge puzzle. Science has some pieces, and religion has others. But until now, nobody could figure out how they fit together. That's what makes this theory different. It doesn't reject science or religion, it shows how they're both part of the same picture. You might be wondering why this matters to you. After all, most of us are too busy with our daily lives to think about big philosophical questions. But here's the thing. Understanding what? What Langan discovered could change how you live your life right now. It could help you make better decisions, feel more connected to the world around you, and yes, even face death with less fear. That's why it's so important to understand who Christopher Langan is and how he developed this groundbreaking model. My unusual background didn't hold him back. It gave him a fresh perspective that traditional scientists and philosophers simply didn't have. But more importantly, you'll start to see how his ideas could answer questions you've had your whole life. Christopher Langan stands as one of the most interesting people you might never have heard of. Born in 1952 in San Francisco, his life reads like a mix of tough challenges and bright spots of genius. So, imagine a kid teaching himself to read at age 3, scoring perfect marks on IQ tests, but growing up in a family that could barely make ends meet. Christopher Langan's background and the CTMU. This man has an IQ that goes beyond what most tests can measure, somewhere between 190 and 210. That's higher than Einstein's. But unlike Einstein, who had the backing of universities and research centers and grew up with money, Langan worked as a bouncer at a sports bar for much of his adult life. During his night shifts, while other people were caught up in bar fights and drama, Langan was thinking about big questions. What makes the universe tick? How does consciousness work? What's the connection between mind and reality? He wasn't just asking these questions, he was building answers. The thing that makes Langan different from other smart people isn't just his IQ score. It's how he thinks about thinking itself. He created something called the Cognitive Theoretic Model of the Universe, or CTMU. Now that's a big name, but the ideas behind it are even bigger. He suggests that reality itself is built on a foundation of logic and information, kind of like a giant computer program, but way more complex. But here's what's really interesting about Langan. He's self-taught. He dropped out of college not once, but twice. Not because he couldn't handle the work, but because life kept throwing obstacles in his way. No car to get to class, no money for books, teachers who didn't get what he was trying to say. So, think about that for a minute. Most big theories about life and the universe come from people with lots of degrees, working in fancy labs or universities. Langan developed his ideas while breaking up bar fights and reading books on his own time. He proves that groundbreaking ideas can come from anywhere. Some people call him the smartest man in America, but that title misses the point. What makes Langan fascinating isn't just his high IQ, it's how he uses it. What he decided to do with it is remarkable. Instead of focusing on making money or getting famous, he spent decades trying to figure out the basic rules that make everything in existence work. His ideas challenge what we think we know about reality. He says that mind and matter aren't separate things. They're connected at the deepest level. The universe isn't just a bunch of random stuff floating around. It's more like a giant thought thinking itself. But Langan isn't some ivory tower intellectual talking down to people. He explains his ideas using regular words when he can. He wants people to understand what he's saying, even if the concepts are complex. That's rare in the world of big theories about life and existence. The media has tried to turn him into a curiosity, the bouncer with the super high IQ. But that misses what makes him special. Here's a guy who looked at the biggest questions anyone can ask. What is reality? Why does anything exist at all? What happens after we die? And he tried to answer them with pure logic. His story shows us something important about human potential. You don't need fancy degrees or special equipment to think about the big questions in life. You just need dedication and the courage to follow your thoughts wherever they lead. Right now, more people are starting to pay attention to Langan's ideas. Scientists and philosophers are looking at his work and finding things worth thinking about. Maybe some of his ideas will turn out to be wrong. That's how science works. But the way he thinks about these problems is opening up new paths for others to explore. Looking at Langan's life and work, we see that the biggest questions don't belong to any one group of people. They belong to anyone brave enough to ask them and patient enough to work through the answers. His story reminds us that sometimes the most interesting ideas come from the places we least expect. The matrix of reality. Science meets spirituality. The matrix of reality goes far beyond what most people think. Many believe we live in a simple physical world, where things just happen randomly. But this view misses the bigger picture of how our reality works. Think of reality like a giant computer program, but much more advanced than anything we could create. Every piece of matter, every thought and every action connects to everything else. Nothing exists alone. It's all part of one big system. This system has rules, just like a video game has rules about how characters can move and interact. But our reality's rules are much more complex. These rules include things like gravity, time, and cause and effect. But they also include things we can't see or measure easily, like consciousness and free will. Christopher Langan's ideas about reality suggest that our minds play a bigger role than we think. Our thoughts and choices actually help create the reality we experience. It's like we're both the players and part creators of this reality system. Let's break this down with a simple example. When you decide to move your hand, your brain sends signals to your muscles. But what made you decide to move your hand? Was it just random chemicals in your brain, or was it something more? This is where the matrix of reality gets interesting. The physical world we see is like the surface of a deep ocean. Below that surface is a whole network of connections and patterns that most people never notice. These patterns link everything together: your thoughts, other people's thoughts, physical objects, and even empty space. Scientists used to think everything was just physical atoms bumping into each other, following strict rules. But now we're finding out that consciousness might be built into the basic structure of reality itself. Your mind isn't just watching reality happen, it's helping to create it. This means that what you think and believe can actually change your reality, not in a magical way, but through real connections in this matrix system. When many people believe something strongly, it can create patterns that affect the physical world. The matrix of reality also explains why some things seem to happen by chance, but actually have meaning. You might think of someone right before they call you, or have a dream that comes true. These aren't just coincidences. They're examples of how everything connects in ways we don't usually see. But this doesn't mean reality is fake or that we're living in a computer simulation. Instead, it means reality is much richer and more interactive than we thought. We're not just passive observers, we're active participants in how reality unfolds. This view of reality helps explain many things that traditional science struggles with. Things like consciousness, free will, and why the universe seems perfectly set up for life to exist. It shows how these things fit together in one big picture. Looking at reality this way changes how we see ourselves and our place in the universe. We're not just tiny specks in a huge empty space. We're connected parts of a living system, and our choices matter more than we might think. Understanding this can change how you live your life. If you know your thoughts and beliefs help shape reality, you might be more careful about what you choose to think and believe. You might pay more attention to the connections between things, instead of seeing everything as separate. But this doesn't mean you can just wish for things and make them happen. The matrix of reality still has rules. What it means is that you're more connected to everything around you than you realized, and these connections work in both directions. The physical world we see is real, but it's not the whole story. It's like seeing the words on a page without understanding the story they tell. The matrix of reality is the full story, how everything connects and works together. This helps explain why different people can experience the same situation differently. Each person's thoughts and beliefs interact with the matrix in unique ways, creating slightly different experiences of reality. As science advances, we're starting to find more evidence for these ideas. Quantum physics shows us that reality isn't as solid and separate as it looks. Everything is connected through fields and forces we're just beginning to understand. The matrix of reality isn't something far away or separate from us. We're in it right now, helping to create it with every thought and action. Understanding this can help us make better choices and live more meaningful lives. The discoveries in quantum physics point to something extraordinary about our reality. Scientists have found that tiny particles can be in two places at once, showing us just how strange and connected everything is. Consciousness and the quantum universe. Once, and they only take a fixed position when someone looks at them. This strange behavior suggests our consciousness might play a role in shaping reality itself. Think about this. Before anyone measures or observes these particles, they exist in multiple states simultaneously. It's like they're everywhere and nowhere until someone checks on them. This is called quantum superposition, and it challenges everything we thought we knew about how the world works. Even more fascinating is how particles can instantly affect each other across any distance. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. When two particles become linked or entangled, changing one immediately changes the other, no matter how far apart they are. This hints at connections in our universe that go beyond what we can see or measure. Some researchers propose that consciousness itself might be quantum in nature. Our brains contain millions of tiny structures called microtubules, where quantum effects could occur. If true, this could explain how our minds connect to the fabric of reality in ways we're just starting to grasp. The double-slit experiment shows this clearly. When scientists fire single particles through two slits, they create an interference pattern, as if they went through both slits at once. But when they measure which slit the particle goes through, the pattern disappears. It's as if the act of observation forces reality to pick one path. This raises big questions about what reality actually is. If particles only become definite when observed, what state are they in before? And what counts as an observation? Does it need a conscious observer, or can any interaction cause this effect? These questions connect directly to ancient ideas about consciousness, creation, and reality. Recent studies have found quantum processes in biological systems, including how birds navigate using Earth's magnetic field and in photosynthesis. This suggests quantum effects aren't limited to specialized laboratory conditions but play a role in life itself. Our bodies might be using quantum mechanics in ways we don't yet understand. The implications go deeper. If consciousness and quantum mechanics are linked, it could mean our thoughts and awareness are not just products of brain chemistry, but are connected to fundamental aspects of the universe. This fits with reports from near-death experiences, where people describe awareness existing outside their bodies. Scientists have measured quantum entanglement between particles separated by hundreds of miles. If consciousness operates on quantum principles, it might explain telepathy, shared experiences, and other phenomena that seem impossible under classical physics. Our minds might be quantum entangled with each other and the universe itself. Some physicists suggest that quantum mechanics points to multiple realities existing at once. Each possibility plays out in its own universe, with our consciousness somehow choosing which one we experience. This could explain reports of parallel lives, alternate memories, and the feeling that reality sometimes shifts. The math behind quantum physics. It shows that everything in the universe is deeply interconnected. There's no such thing as separate objects, just one unified field taking different forms. This matches what mystics have said for thousands of years about all things being one. Looking at brain activity, researchers have found patterns that resemble quantum processes. The way neurons fire together shows signs of quantum coherence and entanglement. Our thoughts might be quantum computations happening across networks of atoms in our brains. This connection between quantum physics and consciousness could explain many mysteries about human experience. How do we have free will in a physical universe? How does consciousness arise from matter? Why do we feel connected to each other and the world around us? Quantum mechanics offers potential answers. As we learn more about quantum physics, we're finding it matches ancient wisdom about the nature of reality. Both tell us that consciousness is fundamental, everything is connected, and what we see as solid reality might be more like a shared dream. The math and experiments of modern physics are confirming what spiritual teachers have long described. The evidence keeps growing that quantum effects play a key role in how our minds work and how we connect to reality. This isn't just about abstract physics, it's about understanding who and what we really are. We might be quantum beings living in a quantum universe, creating reality through our conscious observation. The brain creates consciousness through billions of connected neurons firing together. These connections form patterns that make up our thoughts, memories, and awareness. But consciousness goes beyond just brain activity. It's something more mysterious that scientists are still trying to figure out. Think of your consciousness like a TV that receives signals. Your brain is like the TV's hardware, but the actual experience of being aware comes from somewhere deeper. This is where quantum physics starts to connect with consciousness in fascinating ways. At the smallest quantum level, particles can exist in multiple states at once and seem to communicate instantly across any distance. This quantum behavior might explain how our consciousness works too. Some researchers believe our awareness taps into a field of quantum information that exists everywhere. When we're conscious, we experience one unified stream of awareness rather than billions of separate neural signals. This unity of consciousness is hard to explain with just classical physics and brain chemistry, but quantum effects could allow all those separate processes to sync up into one seamless experience. Near-death experiences give us interesting clues about consciousness. People who were clinically dead but later revived often report leaving their bodies, seeing bright lights and feeling deep peace. Their brains had stopped working, but their consciousness seemed to continue. This suggests awareness might exist separately from the physical brain. Studies of meditation show that focused attention can actually change brain patterns, and even influence quantum systems. Long-term meditators develop different neural networks and can enter unusual states of consciousness. This hints at a deep connection between mind and matter at the quantum level. Our normal waking consciousness filters out most of the information around us. We only notice a tiny slice of all the sensory input hitting our brains. But in altered states, sometimes we access broader awareness beyond the usual limits. This expanded consciousness might tap into quantum fields of information usually hidden from us. The observer effect in quantum physics shows that consciousness affects reality at the most basic level. Just by measuring quantum particles, we change how they behave. This reveals that awareness and physical reality are deeply linked. Our consciousness helps create the world we experience. Time works differently at the quantum scale. Past, present, and future blur together. This could explain why consciousness often doesn't follow normal time rules. In dreams, memories, and mystical states, we can experience multiple time frames at once. Our awareness may connect to a quantum realm where time flows differently. Ancient spiritual traditions described consciousness as fundamental to reality, not just a product of brains. Modern quantum physics is finding scientific evidence that supports this view. Consciousness might be woven into the fabric of the universe itself. The brain's complex networks create the perfect structure to tap into quantum effects. Microtubules in neurons could sustain quantum processes even at warm temperatures. This would allow consciousness to emerge from a combination of classical brain activity and quantum phenomena. When we understand consciousness better, it could revolutionize technology and medicine. Quantum computers might one day match the brain's quantum processing, and we may find new ways to expand and enhance human awareness by working with these natural quantum systems. Right now, we're just starting to grasp how consciousness really works, but bringing together neuroscience, quantum physics, and direct human experience is showing us new possibilities. The mystery of consciousness connects to the deepest questions about reality and our place in it. Looking at consciousness through the lens of quantum physics helps explain things like intuition, creativity, and spiritual experiences. These aspects of awareness go beyond classical physics, but make more sense when we include quantum effects. The evidence points to consciousness being more than just brain chemistry. It seems to be a bridge between the physical and quantum aspects of reality. Implications for daily life and personal transformation. Understanding this connection could transform how we see ourselves and the nature of existence. This view of consciousness raises big questions about what happens when we die. If awareness isn't just created by the brain, it might continue in some form after death. The quantum field that consciousness taps into could persist, even when the physical body ends. Throughout history, people have asked big questions about what happens after we die. Scientists, religious leaders, and everyday people share their ideas, but no one has a complete answer. Let's look at what different groups think about death and what might come next. Many scientists see death as the end of brain activity. When our neurons stop firing, our consciousness stops too. They point to cases of near-death experiences where people report seeing lights or feeling peace as the brain's natural response to shutting down. These experiences often include floating sensations, seeing deceased loved ones, or moving through tunnels of light. But billions of people believe something else continues after death. Buddhists talk about reincarnation, the idea that we live many lives to learn and grow. They say our actions in this life affect our next one. Hindus share similar beliefs, teaching that our soul, or Atman, moves between bodies until we reach spiritual freedom. The three major religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, teach about an afterlife where good people go to heaven and others face judgment. The ideas about consciousness and its possible continuation can change how we view learning and growth. If our awareness continues in some form, developing our minds and characters becomes even more meaningful. We can apply these concepts to how we handle possessions. Knowing we can't take material things with us often leads to simpler living and more focus on experiences and relationships. These understandings can improve end-of-life care. Both caregivers and those near death benefit from viewing death as natural rather than a failure. This often leads to more peaceful final days, focused on comfort and connection, rather than desperate measures. Using these ideas in daily life doesn't require believing any particular theory about death or the afterlife. The practical benefits come from simply being more aware and thoughtful about life's limited nature. This awareness, used wisely, leads to better choices and more meaningful lives. The way we think about life, death, and what comes after affects every part of our daily lives. These beliefs shape our choices, our relationships, and how we spend our time. Think about someone who believes this life is all there is. They might focus on getting the most out of each day, taking risks, and creating lasting memories. They could be more likely to chase their dreams now, rather than waiting for someday. On the flip side, someone who believes in an afterlife might make different choices. They could be more patient with long-term goals, knowing they have more than just this lifetime. They might focus on building good karma or following religious guidelines. These beliefs affect how we handle grief too. Those who think death is final might struggle more with loss, seeing it as a permanent goodbye. People who believe in an afterlife often find comfort in thinking they'll see their loved ones again. Our views on death and what follows can change how we treat others. If you believe all souls are connected, you're more likely to show kindness to strangers. If you think our actions have consequences beyond this life, you might be more careful about how you behave. These beliefs influence big life decisions. Should you take that risky job, move to a new country, or stay in a difficult relationship? Your answer often ties back to what you think happens when life ends. They affect how we raise our children too. Parents who believe in reincarnation might teach their kids different values than those who don't. Some might focus on spiritual education, while others emphasize making the most of this one life. Our beliefs about death shape how we deal with aging. Someone who sees death as a natural transition might age more peacefully than someone who fears it as the end. This affects everything from healthcare choices to retirement planning. These views influence our legacy planning. Do we focus on leaving wealth, knowledge, or good deeds? It depends on what we think matters beyond our time here. They affect how we spend our money and time. Someone who believes in karma might give more to charity, while someone focused on this life only might invest more in experiences and material comfort. Our beliefs about death influence how we handle risk. A person who believes in fate might take more chances. Someone who thinks this is their only shot might be more careful. These ideas shape our relationships. Do we try to fix every conflict now, or trust there's time in another life? Do we hold grudges or forgive more easily? It all connects to our beliefs about what happens after death. They affect our career choices too. Practical takeaways for living fully and leaving a legacy. Some might choose helping professions, believing it builds good karma. Others might focus on achievement in this life, seeing it as their only chance to make a mark. Our views on death influence how we handle stress and anxiety. Believing in something beyond this life can bring peace during tough times. Thinking this is all there is might make us more stressed about making the most of it. These beliefs affect our approach to health. Someone believing in an afterlife might make different medical choices than someone who doesn't. It changes how we view quality of life versus length of life. They shape our environmental choices. If you believe in reincarnation, you might care more about the planet's future. If you think this life is all there is, you might focus on current benefits over long-term impact. Our beliefs about death affect how we view success. Is it about material wealth, spiritual growth, or leaving a better world? These views guide our goals and priorities. They influence how we handle power and responsibility. Someone believing in cosmic justice might lead differently than someone who doesn't think actions have afterlife consequences. These views affect our scientific and medical research priorities. Should we focus on extending life, understanding consciousness, or improving quality of life? Our beliefs guide these choices. They shape social movements and political views. Beliefs about life after death often influence positions on social justice, human rights, and environmental protection. Looking at these effects helps us understand why these beliefs matter so much. They're not just abstract ideas. They shape real choices and actions every day. Being clear about what we believe helps us make better decisions and live more meaningful lives. Life and death are two sides of the same coin, and now you know more about both. I've shared what research and studies tell us about the afterlife, near-death experiences, and what happens when we die. But knowing isn't enough. We need to use this information to live better lives right now. Take what you've learned today and look at your life with fresh eyes. Are you spending time on things that matter? Are you building relationships that bring you joy? Are you leaving a positive mark on the world? Research shows that people who had near-death experiences often changed their priorities completely. They stopped worrying about small problems and focused on love, family, and helping others. You don't need to have a near-death experience to make these changes. Start today. Pick up the phone and call someone you've been meaning to talk to. Fix a relationship that needs repairing. Begin that project you've been putting off. Share your knowledge and skills with others who need them. Many people who came close to death say they regretted not taking action sooner. They wish they had told people, "I love you," more often. They wish they had taken more chances, tried new things, or stood up for what they believed in. The good news is that you're here now reading this. You can make different choices starting today. You can face your fears and do what matters most to you. You can build a life that feels meaningful and true to who you are. Think about what you want people to say about you when you're gone. What stories do you want them to tell? What impact do you want to leave behind? Now work backward from there and start creating that legacy. Don't wait for the perfect moment, it won't come. Don't wait until you have more time, money, or confidence. Start with something small today and build from there. Every big change starts with one tiny step. If this information about life, death, and what comes after has touched you, share it with others. Talk about it with your family and friends. Break the silence around death and dying. These conversations, though difficult, bring us closer together and help us live more fully. Make time regularly to think about what matters most to you. Write it down. Put reminders where you'll see them. Small daily actions add up to big changes over time. Look for ways to help others on their path. Share your experiences. Listen without judgment when others want to talk about death, loss, or the big questions in life. Being there for each other makes us all stronger. Stay curious and keep learning. Science and research about death and the afterlife keep growing. New studies come out all the time. Keep reading, asking questions, and growing your knowledge. Take care of your physical and mental health. Eat well, move your body, and get enough sleep. Connect with nature. Meditate or pray if that helps you feel grounded. A healthy body and mind help you live fully in the present moment. Most importantly, don't let fear stop you. Fear of death often holds people back from living fully. Now that you know more about what happens after we die, use that knowledge to live with less fear and more purpose. I want to thank you for staying with me through this exploration of life, death, and what lies beyond. These topics aren't easy to talk about, but they're so important for living a good life. Now that you have information many people never learn, you have a chance to use it wisely. Make better choices, help others, and shape a life you'll be proud of. The choice is in your hands. How will you use this knowledge? What actions will you take now that you see things differently? The time to begin is right now. Before you go, take the next step and dive even deeper into these insights by signing up for the newsletter below. You'll gain access to extra resources, exclusive exercises, and my personal reflections on how to weave these concepts into your everyday life. You'll also receive a free guide on advanced mindset techniques to help you continue transforming your reality at every turn. Thank you for joining me in this journey. Now go out there, live fully, love deeply, and make every moment count.